Hi everyone, Congressman Blake Moore here. Going to do a quick More You Know video. You've heard there's been a lot of discussion lately and a lot of press about healthcare. It's becoming very on everybody's mind. And I wanted to share a little bit about some important aspects of that. The government shutdown, you heard a lot about it. There's some subsidies that are expiring at the end of this year. And there's also what we're highlighting with this video is two really good write-ups. There's a report from the Government Accountability Office, GAO, and an op-ed from the Wall Street Journal editorial board about why there is so much potential existing fraud associated with what we call the enhanced premium tax credits under Obamacare that started in 2021 and expire at the end of this year. Again, these were COVID era subsidies that were going towards health insurance premiums that are expiring at the end of this year. The Democrats put them in place in 2021 when they had the White House, and Senate, and they put them in for 4 years during that COVID era, and they're expiring now. So let me give an example that I think actually helps out, because you talk about percentages and this and that, it helps to actually see this on paper. Okay, so and at the heart of it is I'm going to try to explain why in the world there would be this rampant fraud that exists, like you'll see in the report that we've linked to this video. If you are an individual making what's called 100% of federal poverty level, that's dictated right now to be $15,650. So it's a low income annual salary at, say, $15,000. What you have within the ACA, Obamacare, is the plan put in place back in 2014, where you were required to pay 2% of your annual income towards your premium. Okay, that is $313 in this example. And then let's say your premium costs, let's say it costs $4,000. So the difference between here, $313 and $4,000, so what? That's $3,700. That is federal dollars sent directly to the insurance company. So the insurance company insures you at $4,000 a year. You pay $300, and the $3,700 difference, the federal government sends directly to whatever insurance provider it is, whether it be United, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Regions, Aetna, you name it. So remember that's what the subsidy is. That is on the original Obamacare subsidies that started in 2014. During the COVID era, so 2021, and it goes to 2025, like the end of this year, the Democrats said, well, we want to actually enhance this more. And so what they did was, for this level of folks, and even more, even as your salary goes up, it moved from 2% to 0%. So then you are paying $0. Then that means if it's still a $4,000 plan, then all $4,000 will be sent from the federal government to the insured. Unfortunately, when you subsidize like this $4,000 that may have been the case in 2024 is probably doubled. It's a lot more expensive. That's because anytime you subsidize a market, just basic economic principles, you directly subsidize like that, you actually don't put any downward pressure on the cost of it. That's why you've seen, under the Obamacare mantra, prices of insurance premiums have skyrocketed upwards to 80% over that course of that time. But set that aside for a minute. The concept that I wanted to highlight is, when you move it to $0, is making it so the fraud becomes even more prominent. Why? Because all of a sudden you can get people signing up for these programs that they don't even know they're on. And that's what the report is starting to highlight. It also highlights how easy it was and how many different discrepancies there are in people taking advantage of the system and not even necessarily knowing that they're on it. But when you're not required to pay even $1, then there's an unknown factor out there, and people can be on these plans and they don't even know about it. What happened from 21 to 2025 is enrollment went up in a lot of these cases, but people weren't even using the service. Likely they probably didn't even know they had the coverage, and it wasn't needed. The insurance companies were still getting the subsidy and the revenue from this, but they weren't actually taking in more patients. And so that has built up over time, which are set to expire at the end of 2025. And so with that concept of at least paying $300 to paying nothing automatically invites more fraud. And that's why I wanted to highlight these particular articles. There's a whole bunch more that talks about the nature of this and why this is rife for issues that we're talking about. But making it $300 to zero and not having to do anything and not any checks and balances into this just invites more fraud. That's the element I wanted to quickly explain. It's obviously a very complicated issue, but I hope you can kind of see the difference. There's one other aspect. If you're making 400% of federal poverty level, in the original subsidies, you didn't get assistance. But during this point, you were, it was moved to 8.5. So you could be making well over 400% of poverty level with no income caps on it, and you still get a subsidy. The federal government still sends money to that insurance company. And that's something that no Republican ever agreed with, that you should remove that income cap. It should only be for low-income individuals, this type of assistance. And there's another big problem with these subsidies that are actually set to expire. Thanks a bunch.